Boys, what's good? It's Herm. I know the lighting's not good, that's fine. But we're here to talk about the Rockets because they're about to get crazy for next season. But let's be honest, the Houston Rockets, they just weren't very good last year. They finished with the NBA's second worst record in 2023, and overall just weren't a very good team. It was extremely isolation heavy and often looked like a glorified AAU team. As a result, they landed the fourth pick of this year's draft and fired head coach Stephen Silas. But this team could go from bottom feeders to a playoff team very quickly, which I'm going to get into today. They hired a new coach in Ime Udoka, who just took the Celtics to the finals in 2022. It's also rumored to be a near certainty that franchise legend James Harden will return via free agency this summer. The team is up to $60 million of projected cap space, so that allows them to give Harden a $35 to $40 million max and still have around $20 to $25 million to target another key piece. I'd suggest Jerami Grant. They also have the fourth overall pick, where they're currently expected to select guard/wing Amen Thompson, who has been called a taller Ja Morant or a skinnier Zion Williamson. Safe to say he is a 99th percentile athlete. So with a great coach, All-NBA guard in James Harden, an elite rookie coming in, as well as possibly another very good piece, this team could get more than double its wins from this season next year. The Houston Rockets are about to get crazy. Now let's take a deeper look at this. So before we do that, think about subscribing if you're new to the channel. If you enjoy it, think about sticking around. But let's not waste any more time after the intro. Let's just get into it. So the Rockets, their projected lineup for next season, to me their projected starting lineup would be James Harden at the 1, Jalen Green at the 2, Amen Thompson at the 3, Jabari at the 4, and Alperen Sengun at the 5. This doesn't account for any other free agency wing additions like I talked about with maybe Jerami Grant or some other guys that we'll get into later. But this does account for Harden and Amen Thompson because I think both of those are near certainties that probably will be happening to start next season. Then off the bench, your second unit, you got Kevin Porter Jr. as a phenomenal six-man, Josh Christopher, KJ Martin, Tari Eason, and Usman Garuba, with some decent third-string guys in Ty Washington, Jayshawn Tate, and Frank Kaminsky and Boban, who are both unrestricted free agents, and who knows if they'll come back, but I would try to keep KJ Martin, but with the salary, they'll free up more space if they end up letting him walk. But now let's just get into some key pieces that'll make this team so crazy next year. Starting off with point guard James Harden, who's looking to return to the Houston Rockets after what I believe was a 2-year hiatus with the Nets and the Sixers. It might have been closer to 3 years actually, but he spent some time away. He's still a near All-NBA player. I think there was a legitimate argument to have him third team All-NBA this season. He didn't get that, and that's pretty clear, but I think he was close. He was also a near All-Star. Is just a very good player. 2 40-point playoff games. There were some disappointing ones, but there were also those 2 great ones where he also hit the game-winning shots. 10-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, 2018 MVP, and a top 5 shooting guard ever. Has kind of converted to a point guard now, but for most of his prime was a shooting guard and is a top 5 shooting guard ever. Michael, Kobe, D Wade, and then either Iverson or Harden at the 4 spot. 21 points per game last year, 11 assists per game, led the league in assists at whatever age he is. He's, I think, nearing 35, he's over 30, and still shot almost 39% from 3. Point blank, he's still a very good player. James Harden is still an elite player, but can he still be the guy? He was the second guy in Philly with Harden and was either the second or third guy in Brooklyn, so can he still be the guy on a good team? I think he can. I think they can be a, kind of 5th or 6th team in the West type team. I think they really have that kind of upside to get much better very quickly. And James Harden, as much as he's kind of disappointed in certain spots in the playoffs, is still a very good player, and I think he showed glimpses in the playoffs that prime version of Harden, the Houston Harden, Houston legend, is still in the tank. Second, we're looking at shooting guard Jalen Green, a former number 2 overall pick. Is just an absolute bucket. This guy's a bucket getter. I have a whole video on him on my channel about how overhated he is. One of the most overhated, disrespected players in the league. He's right on track with other young guards who started off kind of struggling and then got off to really good places in terms of efficiency. So Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, guys like Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, all in this kind of same space as where Jalen Green is production-wise. So people over-worry about him. He's going to be fine. He's going to be an all-star. He's going to be a good player. He's only 21 years old. He has a lot of room to improve. Players don't even usually hit their prime until about 27. So Jalen Green has a lot of room to grow, but he's a very good player right now. Still, some efficiency concerns. He does need to get better in that area, but to me right now it's not like a red flag. 22 points per game this year. Very good second season for him. 3.7 assists and 3.7 rebounds. Is he an empty stats guy or an impactful winner? So a lot of people like to hate on guys like Booker and LaVine before they ended up on good teams because people are like, do these stats actually matter? They do matter. Jalen Green is going to be a good player and an impactful player. I think Jalen Green has top 15 player upside in the league. I think he can be really that good. And it'll be interesting to see how he fits with Harden. It could be kind of clunky to start out because I think in some ways they're kind of similar players, but I think Harden can make Jalen Green better. Next, I'm going to talk about guard/forward Amen Thompson, the projected number 4 overall pick in this year's NBA draft. Played in the overtime elite this past season, and so he's caught in a lot of flack for that because the competition level just isn't quite as good. A lot of kind of still guys that are still in high school, so caught a lot of flack. People saying he's a 20-year-old playing against 16-year-olds. I don't think that's quite right. I think it was not the best competition, but I don't think it should be viewed as harshly as a lot of people are viewing it. I think he's going to be a good NBA player. They had a showcase, I believe it was last year. They went and played overseas against some top teams, and he still averaged like 18 points a game. He was really good. There are some shooting concerns there, but he's kind of shown some improvement there. The jump shot itself doesn't look too bad, and he's just a phenomenal athlete. He's been called the skinny Zion / the taller Ja Morant, and he's just a generational athlete. He's one of the best athletes we've seen come through in a long time. 6'7", can play the point guard, the shooting guard, and the small forward. At least he has in the past. 210 pounds, so he's kind of skinny, but he's not super scrawny, and is already 20 years old. So he's just a year younger than than Jalen Green, despite coming in just 1 year later. So he's a little older as a prospect, but it's not anything you can't work with. And per 40 in the overtime elite, put up about 24 points per game, 9 assists, and 3.5 steals. Is an active defender, not quite as good of a defender as his brother Asar, but I think he has a clearly higher star potential and probably will be an all-star at some point in his career. I really like him, and I think he's going to be a good player. And to me, he seems like a lock to be the 4th pick. I think Scoot Miller will go 2-3, whichever order that ends up being. And then I think Amen Thompson is the clear pick at 4. But can he be a wing at the NBA level? I think we'll see that next season. Can he do that? Can he play alongside guys like Harden and Green? Or will he have to be a bench piece starting out next year? We'll see how that works, but I think he can be a wing. He has the height to do it, and with his athleticism, I think he'll be just fine. Center Alperen Sengun, who I think was the best player in the Rockets last season. I know I just said Jalen Green was overhated, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm not hating on Jalen Green. I just think Sengun is a phenomenal player. I think he's the next Nikola Jokic. Will he ever be quite that good? I don't know, but he's going to be very good. An impressive year 2 jump, was a non-lottery pick, kind of a draft steal. Is just an elite passing big and kind of has a really kind of traditional post-move package, really nice footwork, finishes really well in the paint. 15 points per game last year, 9 rebounds per game, and 4 assists. Will he thrive with a better coach who can showcase his talents? I think someone like Stephen Silas actually really held Sengun back last year, so I'm excited to see how he looks with Ime Udoka, and as a guy who can average like 20 and 10 as soon as next year. I think he has that level of ability, and I think he's going to be a star in this league. I really like Sengun. A lot of kind of stats guys really like Sengun, but it's just someone that I really like. I think he's going to be a good player. I've had a few videos out about him on my channel. I think he's a good player, and I think his upside is very high, and I think with Udoka coming in, he's going to look even better. Jabari Smith Jr., rookie last year. Last year's 3rd overall pick, 2023 all-rookie selection, is a very good defender from day one, which is kind of unusual for rookies. He was a very kind of abnormal rookie defender, is just at the level he was. Shooting upside, struggled a little bit early on in his rookie year with his shooting, but was better as the season went on and also was considered an elite shooter coming out of college. So I think that shot will come around. Even someone like Buddy Hield wasn't a great shooter in his rookie year, but has really come around to be one of the best shooters of the past decade. So I think someone like Jabari Smith can be an elite NBA shooter, and if that comes around, he's going to be a very, very impactful player. And he just got better as the year went along. For the season, averaged 13 points, 7 rebounds, and about an assist and a half in 79 games. I was kind of shocked at how many games he played. Kind of an Iron Man for the team there. But is he more of what we saw in March and early April or early on in the season? If he's what we saw early on in the season, then I think the Rockets are kind of in trouble here with Jabari. But if he is what we saw later in the year and is going to continue to get better, I think we're looking at another player with all-star upside. The Rockets' young core is actually really underrated, I think, and that's why this can get so crazy, because the Rockets have a lot of kind of untapped talent, and if you put them on a winning team with a winning coach, I think we could see a lot of players take really impressive jumps. Next, I want to talk about Kevin Porter Jr. Shifted from shooting guard to point guard. I've kind of liked the point guard experience. I know a lot of people have said the experiment has failed and it hasn't worked out. I just don't think that's true. I think Kevin Porter Jr. has been a pretty solid point guard, is improving as a passer, is a pretty natural scorer as well, and will be a top-end six-man. If he is the six-man for this Rockets team, that is a A1 top level six-man who's going to be a very good player. 19 points per game last year, 5.3 rebounds, and 6 assists. I think if he is the sixth man for this team, he would be my early pick for sixth man of the year. He's a very good player. He's another guy who I think gets a little too much hate. I think his upside is pretty high. He's still pretty young as well. I think he's either 22 or 23. I really like Kevin Porter Jr., and I think he's very, very impressive as a scorer. A little bit of the efficiency problems as well. He does have some shooting woes at this point, but with him and Green, I've actually really liked the young backcourt duo, and I think both of those guys are going to be great players. Is he a long-term point guard? I don't know. I think he could end up being he will be a six-man, but he could end up being a shooting guard long-term, but either way, he's going to be an impactful player, and if he's just a electric bench guy, I think he's going to be one of the best ones the league has seen in a while. It just has the ability to put the ball in the bucket in bunches, and will continue to do that throughout next season if that's his role. And finally, in terms of specific players, I wanted to talk about Tari Eason. I debated talking about him, but I decided to do it because a lot of people really like Tari Eason. I think he's a fan favorite type of player. Didn't go in the lottery last year, but a lot of people view him as one of the best players from that draft class already. Has really sneaky upside as a guy who can be an all-star as well. I feel like I'm repeating that too much because it feels crazy to say they have this many guys with all-star potential, but I really think they do. I think Tari Eason is kind of that prototypical great wing, as a great defender who's continuing to evolve offensively and just becomes better and better in that realm, and I think that's the part that really matters, is how much he's going to get better offensively. Was an all-rookie selection, which a lot of people were kind of surprised by, but did have a good rookie year and just does a lot of different things well. Is a great athlete, not the 99th percentile like Amen is, but is probably a 90th percentile athlete. He's a very good one and has some really impressive highlight plays, and he's just a super hustle player. He always looks like he's out there trying, giving it his all, and for a Rockets team that I didn't think had that throughout the board, I was really impressed with him doing it specifically. 9 points per game last year, 6 rebounds, 1.2 assists. I believe he had like a steal per game as well. He's just he does a lot of the dirty work, I'd say. Does he have all-star upside, I think, is the question. I think more likely than not, he's a good starter. I think a good starter is a fair projection for Tari Eason. Has to continue to improve as a shooter. Wasn't awful, but I think he can get better in that realm and just continue to work on his own offensive creation, but I think his upside is pretty high. The Rockets are a free agent destination, $60 million in cap space to work with. 35 to 40 of it is going to go to Harden, but that leaves 20 to 25 left for a good wing player. Excuse me. I think Jerami Grant is the guy. If I'm them, I really look into Jerami Grant. Then you can bring him on Amen Thompson off the bench, kind of slowly bring him along, and run out an elite defensive front court duo of Jerami Grant and Jabari Smith Jr. I really like that idea. I think he'd be a perfect fit here. Kyle Kuzma, another cool option, is more of a scoring type, but Harrison Barnes is a floor spacer and defender, would be cool. Dylan Brooks, same idea, very good defender. I believe he made all defensive team this year, and I thought he should have. I was glad that he did. A lot of people were hating on him because, he gets a lot of hate, but I think he's an all-defensive caliber guy. And you add him to this Rockets team with a defensive-minded head coach and a team that needs more defense. I think Dylan Brooks could thrive, which a lot of people have pointed out. A lot of people are saying he'll be playing in Shanghai with the Sharks, but he will be on an NBA roster next year. Kelly Oubre as well, just another guy who's a sneaky 20-point-per-game scorer this year with the Hornets, and is a good wing. Is just a solid wing. I wouldn't pay him 20 to 25, but I'd be more than happy paying Kelly Oubre 15. He's a 20-point-per-game guy. Next, I want to talk about head coach Ime Udoka. For his career, 51-31, just one season, but a .622 winning percentage, very good. One-time finals appearance in 2022. Only 45 years old, which for coaches really is still pretty young. 9-year assistant coach, mostly with the Spurs, learning under Greg Popovich, so has very good training there. 2-time Eastern Conference Coach of the Month. 4th in 2022 Coach of the Year voting. Convinced LaMarcus Aldridge to sign with the San Antonio Spurs when he did that, so he's a kind of great piece to bring players in. So a guy like Jerami Grant or a guy like Dylan Brooks or whoever, I think he convinced them to come to this team as well. And he does have that tie into Jalen Brown, which Rockets fans love to point out, but I think that would be an expensive trade for the Rockets to pull off and kind of a difficult one. So if you're keeping expectations realistic, I think Jalen Brown is kind of unlikely, but Ime Udoka does give them a better chance than they would have had before, is known to be well liked by his players, and is a great defensive coach. The Celtics were second in defensive rating his only season there, and the Rockets aren't going to be that high. Just realistically, the Rockets aren't going to be a top 3 defensive team. But if the Rockets can become a top 15 defensive team, I think they can be a top 10 to top 5 offensive team, because they're going to have so many offensive pieces that if they can bring a good defense along, this can be a really good team and be a crazy one. I don't think they're going to be a contender next year, but they can be a good playoff team. What to expect the offseason and next season? If we're looking on the low end, I think it's 40-ish wins. Lose in the play-in tournament, that's fine. The roster is still pretty young, and you consider that improvement going forward. It's been said that the front office wants to make a jump towards playoff contention as soon as next year, and I think if they bring Harden back, if they draft a guy like Amen and maybe make another move, they're going to do that. On the high end, I think you're looking at 48 to 50 wins, and the team finishes 5th or 6th place in the West, kind of avoids the play-in tournament, and has a first-round matchup. Expect Harden to sign early in free agency with the Rockets. It seems like it's basically a guarantee at this point. All the talk at the Combine was that it's a near certainty that he's going back to Houston, so expect that to happen. They should try to grab a key free agent wing like Jerami Grant or one of the other guys I mentioned. I think they could have 3 potential 20-point-per-game scorers in James Harden, Jalen Green, and Alperen Sengun. And James Harden, you could expect him to lead the league in assists again, because he would have a ton of offense-first players on his team, guys that can get buckets, and I think that would give him a lot of assist potential. Retain KJ Martin if possible, but if you want to clear up the most cap space, they're going to have to kind of renounce KJ Martin's rights. So we'll see what happens with that. If on the higher end of wins, could be 2 All-Stars. James Harden will make it if they're on this higher end of wins, especially if they're like in a playoff spot when the All-Star break rolls around. Harden will make it, and Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, one of those guys could make it as well. I don't think Kevin Porter Jr. probably realistically in that conversation, but I think Green or Sengun could both be in that conversation next season. I think this team is going to outperform a lot of people's expectations. I think they're going to be a good team next year and going to be a crazy fun watch, because the offense is going to be wild, and if the defense can come along, expect this to be a good team. But that's kind of what to expect with the Rockets for next season. That's what I'm talking about right now, and that's going to be the video. So let me know your thoughts on this Rockets team. A lot of people are kind of against them bringing Harden back. Let me know your thoughts on that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very, very fun team. team, but will it be a good team is the real question mark. But let me know your thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. It's going to be it for me today. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.